I am We Want Insanity's resident robot himself, James Bullock. Not here with another edition of Honor Nation, but here with a special audio, actually with a special video, to commemorate the 300th ROHbot Report. And first of all, I can't believe it's been 300 editions of the ROHbot Report. It started back in 2008 for then World Wrestling Insanity. When I did the celebration of the 100th edition of the ROHbot Report, I wrote about the top 100 matches in Ring of Honor history up to Best in the World 2011. And I followed that up with the 200th ROHbot Report, where I did the top 20 feuds in Ring of Honor history up to, at that time, Final Battle 2013. Even though I feel that, looking at the list now, I don't think really there have been any that have been bumped from that list over the last few years. But this time, for the 300th edition, I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to write about what I thought was the best in Ring of Honor history, or what was the greatest moments in Ring of Honor history. I wanted to hear from you. I wanted to hear from the readers. I wanted to hear from the listeners of the Honor Nation podcast. I wanted to hear, see, read about your favorite Ring of Honor moment in history. Ring of Honor has existed now for 14 years, and in those 14 years, I wanted to know, what was your favorite moment in Ring of Honor history? And, of course, I couldn't ask this question and not answer it myself. And for me, it is Death Before Dishonor 3, and the main event of Death Before Dishonor 3. And it's not just the match, which I believe was a great match, one of the more underrated matches in Ring of Honor history between CM Punk and Austin Aries for the Ring of Honor World Championship. But it is what follows when CM Punk defeats Austin Aries for the Ring of Honor World title. At the time, it is believed that, for one, WWE has signed Punk, so he's going. This is his final match in Ring of Honor, and it's for the Ring of Honor World Championship. And no one in their right mind believes he's going to win the title before he leaves, and lo and behold, that's exactly what happens. So when he grabs the microphone and tells the world the truth behind his recent change in attitude, his real becoming of a babyface over the last year or so, was just a trick to get the fan support so he could really get his way and get himself a Ring of Honor World title shot when he really didn't deserve it after losing to Samoa Joe, after not having the greatest win-loss record. CM Punk got a Ring of Honor World title shot, turned on the fans, and promised to take the belt to WWE and Vince McMahon. And before he could, Christopher Daniels, who had been exiled from Ring of Honor, and Daniels comes back as really this vanguard of honor. He comes back in an effort to win the Ring of Honor World Championship before CM Punk can disgrace it. And then Punk gets away from him and runs through the crowd and leaves through the building. And he's got the Ring of Honor World title in his possession. He's still the Ring of Honor World Champion. It's this epic cliffhanger that is left that at the time was never seen in Ring of Honor. You didn't see it in independent professional wrestling. You didn't see anything like this. And it began the summer of Punk. But that moment, that catalyst, where CM Punk became the Ring of Honor World Champion, turned heel, and Christopher Daniels returned, and then Punk left, and left everyone wondering what would happen next in Ring of Honor, what would happen next for the Ring of Honor World Championship. It's easily my favorite moment in Ring of Honor history, which is saying something because I've seen so many moments. I've been a Ring of Honor fan since day one, practically, and I've seen such great moments, both on DVD, on VHS, and in person. And for me, that one stands head and shoulders above the rest. But that's enough about me. What about you? What is your favorite Ring of Honor moment? That was the question I posed to not only the readers of the ROHbot Report, but people on Twitter, people on Facebook, people on Reddit. When I did the 200th ROHbot Report, I talked about the 20 greatest feuds in Ring of Honor history, and number one, hands down, and still is to this day, is the feud between Ring of Honor and Combat Zone Wrestling. It was an interpromotional feud like never before. Not only in Ring of Honor, not only in Ring of Honor history, but in wrestling history. You don't see interpromotional feuds happen with such effectiveness as this one did. And for several people, they all commented, a lot of people commented on their love for this feud. And IVP videos on Twitter responded being in person for the finale of the feud, the Cage of Death, between Ring of Honor and Combat Zone Wrestling. Featured heat that could never be replicated. It was one of those monumental moments in Ring of Honor history that you could only imagine what it would feel like to be in that building if you weren't there live. I can only imagine how it felt being in that building and he was there. Richard the Bloody on Reddit responded in the same, and one of the big moments of that match of the Cage of Death was Homicide coming to represent Ring of Honor. It was a big storyline at the time that Homicide felt he had been cheated by Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor management didn't care about him. They had done him badly. They had done him wrong, and Ring of Honor needed someone. They needed someone who could handle himself and really win the war for Ring of Honor against Combat Zone Wrestling. And one of the only people they felt could do that was Homicide. And when the match was coming to what looked like its inevitable conclusion, Homicide made his grand entrance. And for Richard the Bloody on Reddit, Homicide's entrance that night was pretty much the coup de grace to what Richard says might be his favorite night in all of wrestling. His favorite moment in all of wrestling was the Cage of Death, was Homicide coming out to help win the war for Ring of Honor against Combat Zone Wrestling. Fast forwarding a little bit to the HDNet era, if you will, of Ring of Honor, Cameron McDonley remarks that his favorite moment in Ring of Honor history was the moment that Kevin Steen turned on El Generico at Final Battle 2009. Final Battle 2009 was a monumental event as well for Ring of Honor. It was the first internet pay-per-view, live internet pay-per-view for Ring of Honor. And for Cameron, it was the moment he became a hardcore fan of Ring of Honor. It was something that was truly unexpected. A lot of people, including yours truly, thought that Kevin Steen was going to either retire or take a long hiatus from professional wrestling. He was beat up. He was talking about how his knees were hurting and his back was shot and everything. So a lot of fans believed that this was the moment that Kevin Steen would take his bow from Ring of Honor and it'll be just El Generico on his own. And lo and behold, El Generico gets kicked in the groin and Kevin Steen begins this war with his best friend that was pretty much the best thing about 2010 and one of the best things about professional wrestling 2010 period, not just for Ring of Honor. And for Cameron, that was one of those grand moments, and I couldn't help but agree. It is a monumental moment. Rennie919 also remarked during that time period of the HDNet era of Ring of Honor that her favorite moment was the Big Bang. Now, a lot of people don't talk about the Big Bang too much. Ring of Honor had its first pay-per-view in North Carolina, and it was the Big Bang. And it featured Tyler Black, who is now currently Seth Rollins, Austin Aries, and Roderick Strong in the main event. And as she remarked, it wasn't the best Ring of Honor show, but it was her first live Ring of Honor event. And for a lot of people that wrote in, their live events, their first live event experiences at Ring of Honor were the best. As she said, it wasn't the best show, but it was just one of those things that reminded you just how fun not only Ring of Honor is, but professional wrestling is. Once you see it live, it just hooks you again sometimes. I had that moment myself when you feel like you may be falling out with whatever it is, be it a company or professional wrestling in general, and you go to a live event, and it hooks you again. And in her case, the Big Bang was one of those moments that Ring of Honor hooked her by coming to her town. T. Lowe couldn't just pick one grand moment because there are so many grand moments. There's so many favorite potential moments in Ring of Honor history. He listed several, and I know probably people that are listening to this will agree that some of these moments are their favorite moments in Ring of Honor history, including Joe's title reign, Samoa Joe being the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion to this day, 21 months as Ring of Honor World Champion. Austin Aries shockingly defeating Samoa Joe to become the Ring of Honor World Champion at Final Battle 2004. Bryan Danielson returning and winning the World Heavyweight Championship at Glory by Honor 4, and his reign that would last from September of 2005 until December of 2006 at Final Battle. Prince Nana signing Jimmy Rave to become the crown jewel of the embassy. And they tried to replicate that for so many years, with so many options, with so many people, and it never worked out in the same way that it did for Jimmy Rave. Generation Next really turned the ship around and showcased what young talent, what young potential megastars Ring of Honor housed. You had Roderick Strong, you had Austin Aries, you had Jack Evans, you had Alex Shelley, 4 men that would go on to prominence not only in Ring of Honor but elsewhere. The first ladder war, which was an historic moment in Ring of Honor history. In 2007, it was the Briscoes versus Kevin Steen and El Generico, and their war over the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship culminated in the first ladder match, the first official ladder match in Ring of Honor history, and it was so brutal, so violent, that Ring of Honor claimed they would never do the match again, and of course they have done several since, but it gave that match so much legitimacy and aura that it became one of those big-time matches in Ring of Honor. It was on the same level as a Fight Without Honor. And last but not least, Joe versus Kobashi. Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi. It was one of those dream matches that you never thought would happen, and let alone happen on American soil. And in October of 2005, it did. And going back to Richard the Bloody said on Reddit, another one of his favorite moments was Joe slapping Kobashi. And that was really an indication of what this match was going to be about. And I've had people watch the match alongside me and be in awe. They're not even wrestling fans, and be in awe of this, because it's just two really big men, beating the crap out of each other, and in front of a hot crowd and a very intimate atmosphere that just resonates. I hate to say it again, but it truly does. It resonates beyond just being a wrestling fan. It reached down to the primal nature of humanity, where we want to see who's the better fighter, who's the better man, who's the better woman. You don't have to be an MMA fan to know who Ronda Rousey is, or Conor McGregor, or Anderson Silva. You don't have to be a boxing fan to know the greatness of Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. It's just that. Just like with professional wrestling, you don't have to necessarily understand it, but when you see two men fighting like Joe and Kobashi did, it pulls you in. Going to something more recent, to the Sinclair Broadcast Group era, Tweaked Enigma on Reddit and Enigmatic Evil on Reddit both agreed that their favorite moment was witnessing Jay Lethal become the Ring of Honor World Champion. And I talked about it on the most recent Honor Nation, the build toward Jay Lethal, then the Ring of Honor World Television Champion, fighting Jay Briscoe, then the Ring of Honor World Champion, for both championships. And Enigmatic Evil followed that up with not only him feeling that it was a great moment, the build toward Jay Briscoe versus Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor World and World Television Championships was done so well, and the payoff was done so well, that it felt like one of those perfect moments, those perfect storms. So there you have it. I want to thank everyone that has read the ROHbot Report, not only up to 300, but the ones that started at the beginning, the ones that maybe jumped on midway, the ones that maybe just started reading. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for writing in, for tweeting, for Facebook posting. I want to thank you for listening to the Honor Nation podcast and listening to this video, this audio video. I want to thank you for just being a part of this crazy community that is professional wrestling fandom. Because without it, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. I honestly don't. I really don't. So, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. And keep supporting professional wrestling. This has been We Want Insanity's resident robot himself, James Bullock, celebrating the 300th edition of the ROHbot Report. Till then.